What happens when law, business, and life collide? Each week on Lead Counsel, your host Tom Tona will take a deep dive into topics related to the law, the business of law, and life. There will be insightful discussions with industry insiders, experts, and thought leaders making significant contributions and meaningful differences in their fields of expertise. Tom is the founder and managing attorney at TonaLaw. He has been a practicing attorney since 1994 and the leader of TonaLaw since it opened in 2001. The goal of this podcast is to provide you with free information on law and the business of law, and to give you actionable tools related to each of these areas. Now, here's Tom.
Hey, welcome to the Lead Counsel Podcast. This is your host, Tom Tona. I am here with Jules. Jules, what's going on?
Hi, everybody. Welcome back.
How you doing, Jules?
Doing good. I'm excited for today's episode.
I am too. Our guest today is Marc Morris out of Florida. Marc is out of both Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Palm Beach. Marc, you have 3 offices there?
Well, we have basically, yes, I can say that. Okay, let's go with that. But we are mainly in Miami-Dade County, but we handle the Tri-County area down here. So any type of criminal matters, federal or state, we try to stay within the Tri-County area.
Nice. And I'm always fascinated with the space that you're in, right? Criminal defense, because it's something I don't do. I've always referred it out. So I'm excited to get into that with you. But I'm also excited about another thing. And we were joking around just before we started recording that I am in the presence of greatness with both what I call the king of TikTok, which is you, and the queen of TikTok, which is Juliet. She's the queen of TikTok. So I feel like I'm in the presence of greatness with both of you. So
well, we can compare some notes for sure. Definitely, Tom.
Yeah, and I appreciate you coming on. And so let's just jump right to it. Marc, how did you get started in criminal law?
Okay, so I sort of knew I wanted to be a trial lawyer way back, even like late junior high school, early high school. I had an uncle who was an attorney, and I used to work in his office. Started in the mailroom as a courier, then in the library doing, the CCH, the code update, anything that I could within the law firm. And I started, listening in to attorneys in their offices, and sort of kind of grew up. But that was my job outside of, I had another part-time job, but that was my job. And I learned a lot about the law. And I was, that's just kind of something that I wanted to do. Saw some movies with trial attorneys with Paul Newman, The Verdict, To Kill a Mockingbird was another one. I sort of just had these, moments where I would really like to do that. That's something that I think I could do. And then, as you go through college, you start taking pre-law classes. You start to prepare yourself for law school. And went into law school. And as soon as I got into law school, I got into the trial program at my law school. And the mock trial program where I went was a big program. And my first job was Janet Reno as a prosecutor here down in Miami.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I walked right into a DA job, a state attorney, a prosecutor's job right out of law school. And that was it. That's where it started. So when you want to learn criminal law, I suggest the first place you go to work is with the government. You either go to work for the prosecutor or the public defender in your area.
Yeah. And
be taught by people who have been doing it. Get into the courtroom. You've got to be in the courtroom to do criminal law. So it started at a fairly young age for me. I didn't really have any other path that I was going to take, and that's here I am.
That's
this
awesome.
Is where I ended up.
And I'll also say that depending on the other area of law that you would go into is personal injury, right? So I came out of school, I started trying cases right away at a private firm, and I was hooked, right? I did my first trial. I wasn't supposed to win. Boom, I get hooked. Probably about 12, 15 years ago, I made the conscious decision because I was very entrepreneurial to focus on the business side, right? So now I'm building out a trial team because and I love your statement that if you're going to do X area of law, you got to be in the courtroom. I actually think that stands for more than just criminal defense. I think it's also...
Absolutely. Personal injury. You got to know your way around a courtroom.
You got to show the carriers you're willing to try the cases. So we're in the process of shifting our business model just a little bit to include picking out, 10% of inventory just to take to trial, right? Just because I want that happening.
Absolutely. And look, you like it. I can tell. You get juiced by it, right? I mean, I went to trial in August, and it was a 4-day trial, and the adrenaline, just, you know how that is when I couldn't, sleeping is tough when you're in trial. Your whole life, you have to really, change your lifestyle for a little while during that trial period. And look, same thing with criminal, except for the burden of proof, as in personal injury. You got somebody who's relying on you.
Right.
I mean, they've been waiting for this case, and going to trial is the ultimate resolution of a case. In my opinion, it's the ultimate resolution.
Right.
There's no, negotiations anymore. You are in the midst of picking a jury, and that juice is going, that adrenaline's going, and you got to get the right jury, and you've got to have client management, and you got to make changes on the fly. And these are things you can only learn by trying cases that you weren't supposed to win as a young man, like you just said. You're not supposed to win, okay? That's how, it takes a long time to really learn how to try a case, how to pick a jury. I still think, and I will argue with people on this all day long, that maybe the most important part of the trial is jury selection.
Right. Are you connecting with the jury, right?
Are you getting the right jurors to hear your case? Are you getting the right jurors to hear your case if you're looking for a payout? I mean, for your client to be compensated. Are they going to give your client money?
Right.
Or are they going to say to the insurance company, you guys are the winners here? I've never tried a PI case, but I've only tried something where someone's years of their life are on the line, not incredible amounts of money.
Right. But I'll tell you what, in many, many ways, that is the ultimate in high stakes, right? Like as lawyers, we know the most valuable commodity is time, right? Not money.
Well,
right?
That's what I hear you talk about you talk about this on your podcast all the time. Mm-hmm. Time is a commodity and it's expensive for everybody. For everybody. Yeah. Everybody has to ask themselves, how are you using your time? And are you concentrating on cases that are going to make money? Let's face it. You just said it before too. It's a business. I'd love to just be able to try cases. Cases come in the door. I'm fortunate that my partner, we have a 2-man team and we have some paralegals, that he handles most of the business side of it.
Yep.
And the marketing side, which is incredibly crucial to getting to trial. You don't get to trial unless you have a business side to your firm.
Right. And that's the interesting part. That's the interesting part. So I didn't know you had a partner. And I was going to say, what I have found very difficult, and it's not a dance I figured out, is being the trial person and being the business person. I don't think you can do it, quite honestly. And I'm not the guy that's going to do both. So I chose the business side. That's why I am now bringing in trial assassins to do the PI side. Right.
So do you mainly stick to the trial side and let your partner handle?
I do, Julia. I do. And my partner likes to say it too. He's like, just go concentrate on the motion practice. He hates the motion practice. He doesn't like to research. I can lock the door and research all day and pull cases and read it. It's a little bit mind numbing. It can be, but I can do that. And I like to do that. But he'll deal with the business side, getting the money into the trust account, getting the clients calmed down. Now I'll get on calls with him to talk to the clients because they need both sides. They'll need the business side of it. And they'll also need, hey, what's happening with my case, on the fight side of it.
Right.
But if both of us are not working in tandem, if the business side is not working, my trial skills they're fun. Wow, look at that. But I'll never get into a courtroom. I'll never get a case to try.
Right.
So you have to sync up both sides. And I like the fact that you're putting together assassins. I like that.
Yeah. I want people that are trying cases now and experts.
Trying cases is a young man's game too.
I was going to say that because I'm 55. I don't know how old you are, but
57, yeah.
I have found myself saying that many times, it's a young man's game. I know what it takes out of you. So, and as you were describing the lifestyle, because I'm very familiar with it, I was thinking it shaves years off your life every time you try a case, right? Every time you try a case.
I don't want to be dramatic. I don't want to sound like but it's true. The last trial, it really took it out of me. I mean, it took me a few days. It felt like I went to Vegas.
Right. Yep.
And you need to sleep and the time. You have to recharge your batteries. But all that is because of the adrenaline and the preparation and. The jury goes out to deliberate. You remember all these things.
Of course.
These are things that really, the anxiety level goes up.
But it's also the same stuff that makes it impossible for guys like you and me to just sit around, too. That adrenaline, that You know,
Can't do it.
Yeah. It's tough because those are the things that age you, but it's the stuff that kind of drives you, right? So
it's a tough balance in this world, and but again, you have to go back. Bringing in business is the number one priority focus of any law firm. It has to be, because how do you operate without business?
Right.
So you can have the most talented people working in your office, but if you're not ringing the register and bringing in and being able to pay these people,
right,
and giving your best, even look, how many nights have you lost sleep not knowing when, hey, business is a little slow this month.
Yeah.
Business is a lot slow this month.
Yeah.
Like, what are we going to do to get that pipeline full again?
Right.
Like, I don't know how you do your marketing other than, this and getting the word out and getting other lawyers to give you cases, which is that mostly how you get your cases?
We have a multi-channel marketing kind of complex setup. Jules is a marketing coordinator, and she manages probably a dozen different channels, right?
Our firm is like an octopus with all its like marketing arms in all different areas.
So one of my target audiences is professionals, right? Is attorneys, like you're saying, which is why I dove into LinkedIn as hard as I did. And it really does pay off, LinkedIn. But again, it's a lot of work.
I need to get on LinkedIn. I really do. I have it there, and I've heard you're not the first person. LinkedIn is a social media platform.
Yes.
People don't understand that.
Yes. And the big thing is, so we could do this as part of another thing or a phone call. There's a secret sauce I figured out with LinkedIn, right?
Okay.
So we get to like 10,000 real connections, and I start posting January of last year, and I probably will cross 1 million impressions this year of posts.
Wow.
But I think you said it in the notes that Jules sent over, which is people want to be, same thing you do on TikTok, informed, educated, or entertained, or all three.
I was gonna lead into that, and the entertainment side of what we do. Let's face it, we have to, in this day and age of social media and presentation, you have to entertain people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people find law boring.
Podcast, Juliet, you have to bring on people that are going to give some type of entertainment value to the production, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is performative.
Yeah.
And you're bringing the energy.
But it's also,
gotta have it.
Listen, same thing you do in TikTok. You just got to know the audience, which is for you, lawyers, right? Like if you want lawyers to refer business, because you're not going to get B2C direct, but you get a ton of B2B referrals, and you are very entertaining. Just be who you are, but it's written format. And if you like to write, which you said you do, you enjoy writing, it just is about showing up every day, but building the connections, the real connections at the same time. And I could kind of help you with some of that as well.
That would be great.
But I think for you, Marc, like you figured out the formula, right? Like on TikTok, we could just jump right into it. We'll go all over the place.
Your TikTok perform.
Like,
go ahead. Yeah, I never opened my TikTok account for business. Actually,
right.
It was when the girls were home during COVID and showed me this application that they were using. They're dancing, and I said, "Oh, that's nice." TikTok, okay. And then one morning, my daughter was like, Dad, you should just do a short video. Hold the phone like this and do a short video, and then you just press this red button here, and it'll go out there. And I'm like, wait, whoa. What do you mean it'll go out there?
Right.
Where is my video going exactly? I'd like to know whose house it's going to. I'm asking these questions because in my mind back then, I didn't get the concept of just uploading and shooting out a video, because even Instagram back then I don't think they were doing reels. And
right, they were.
That was a matter of just posting pictures, and I thought, oh, your followers. And I'm like, I don't have any followers. But some of the first couple of videos I sent out, and I think it was a matter of timing and the matter of how many people were out there and how many lawyers. There weren't that many lawyers on TikTok when I got started.
Right, nope. Right.
So, I mean, I was even able to get lawyer Marc, my name. Okay, that tells you that there weren't that many where you're actually able to. Can you imagine getting lawyer Tom?
Right.
Oh my God, I wish.
But I'll tell you what, I mean, I think that you're brilliant, right? To the extent that Gary V, I was listening to him a while back, and he was like, look, just pick 2 platforms. And he was recommending TikTok and LinkedIn for lawyers, right? So Jules and I sat down, we designed a plan. I was going to handle LinkedIn because I love to write. I got a face built for radio. Nobody wants to hear my face on TikTok. Jules, on the other hand, loves TikTok, very creative. So I was like, look, you entertain people. I will pepper in informative content, but it's not my I don't love being on TikTok. For you, you can reach B2C really unbelievably on TikTok. You're providing value for people, right? Like if you're putting out, I watch all your content because
thank you.
I find you very entertaining, but you're also really informative. Like the stuff you talk about, I don't know about. So I love listening to your takes on all things law. And then you get into some political stuff. And for anybody...
Yeah, I've got to be very careful with that too right now as well. Like even if I want to split it down the middle, you can't because people come at me and troll me I leave my DMs open. Anybody can send me a message.
Right.
I don't have that shut down.
Right.
And for entertainment value too, because sometimes you get messages that you can make videos.
Of course.
I get people confessing to me all day long, which is a little bit of an issue too. I did a video on that. I get people writing to me and go, last night I was in, breaking into a car with my buddy and the detective called me this morning. What do you think of my chances of staying out of jail are?
Right. Probably not too good if you're writing to me on TikTok.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm saying to myself, these people haven't made good decisions their whole life. They're not going to start making them right now if they're on TikTok. Right. So it's consistent. But I lost my train of thought for a minute.
But I think what the road you're going down, which is the value you're providing, is significant. And you're doing it in like 30-second clips or 2-minute videos. But it's also really entertaining. So I have no doubt you'll be at 1 million followers. Like anybody that's listening to this, now we'll put the link to your TikTok on the show notes. But I mean, you figured it out, right? It's about value, entertaining, educating.
And you know
what? It's about entertainment first. It has to be about entertainment first. But I think we're in this really interesting time period right now where social media is still new. We're talking about artificial intelligence right now. And whenever you have this technology that comes out that's disruptive, that's scary, that we don't know if we can control it, you have this sort of like this backlash that we're seeing. I mean, ask anybody from the older generation. Find the oldest people that you can. Ask them what they talked about when TV came out.
Right.
Okay.
Or the computer.
Kids?
Yeah.
My mother would come, my brother and I were watching something that was, I don't know, maybe objectionable in the 70s or something. She'd come up to the TV set and shut it off and go, don't watch that Poison, or that's, don't rot your brain or something like that. Cartoons Saturday morning, those were okay. But there was really nothing interesting on TV. But at night, you'd hear the complaints. Look what they're trying to make us watch. But, this is going back. So now we have the same thing with social media, with artificial intelligence.
I was just going to say AI is something that we are looking hard at because there's products out there right now that we're going to be incorporating in our software where they will write responsive papers to emotion along with citations. So I'm a big fan of the technology, but I'm also an early adopter. Like I'm a big fan. I won't do anything that breaches confidentiality. I'm not the guy that's going to go on ChatGPT and upload my client's medicals or anything like that.
Okay.
But I am very optimistic that as a tool, it can actually help us even the playing field even more with the smaller practices. Like how many people are in your practice? You, your partner, and how many people?
So we've got 5 right now.
Okay. Right. You'll be able to, and you probably already see that with technology, but you'll be able to level up where they'll be able to do 4, 5 times the amount of work they can do just by leveraging technology, right? Because
absolutely. I was using, have you messed around with the chatbot? I was using it for emails like several months ago. I stopped using it for the time being. It was fun. In the beginning, I was using it. It was saving me a lot of time because it's all in the query. It's all in the query.
Right, the prompts, yeah.
It's all in what you put in there to come back. Like draft an email to Juliet telling her that I would like to talk about X, Y, and Z, specifically Z, this, and that. So my query was a paragraph with some of these emails asking it to draft it. And it would come back with a beautifully drafted email. Almost too good. Right, people will start to become aware that, hey, are you using AI on these emails? Like I got that back a few times.
Yeah.
And so the question is of ethics, and look, there's no ethics issue in trying to save time during your day. We started off this podcast by talking about the value of time. And I think that's what artificial intelligence is going to do. Now, it's going to give law practices that do judgments and going after, all these credit, agencies going after old debt. They're using AI.
Right.
To sort through old judgments and things like that.
So when did you first take off on TikTok where you were like, hey, I'm onto something? Because with 200,000 or close to 200,000 followers, I'm assuming, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming you're seeing traction from a business marketing side using your TikTok.
I never converted it to business yet.
Doesn't matter.
The first time, if you notice my profile, I put my full name and I put an email address there for people to reach out to me.
Yep.
Right.
So for the first time in the last 30 days, I've identified myself by full name and an email address, and now people are reaching out.
Okay.
And doing it. My partner's been for a long time. He's on Facebook, okay? So he likes to do what you do. He writes. He's not on LinkedIn, and that's why the first thing I'm doing when we're done is for me to get on the phone with him and talk about let's get LinkedIn going here.
But let me give you one suggestion, and I'm going to just jump in for a second. Don't do the firm. It's about personal brand. Right? Same thing you did on TikTok. Now,
I think that's why you took off so well on TikTok is because, like you said, at first you didn't even make it for business. You just made it for that personal use. And people on social media, they like to see people.
They don't want to talk to companies.
You know what, Jules? That's so right. Let me. That's so. It's so true. And you know what? People don't even really like really good production videos. I've seen attorneys spend a lot of money where they're coming out, of their office, this beautiful office in Fort Lauderdale here with the palm trees, and they're walking, and they got
the good lighting,
and they got
stuff.
8 views. I'm wondering, why aren't people watching this? Because I think it's because people are seeing the same thing on TV. They're seeing that same advertisement. It's kind of throwing them off. But I'm talking, one of my first videos that took off was marijuana and airports. I just, because some of my daughter's friends were traveling and it's legal in one state, not legal in the other state. What do we do? So I did a short video to talk about that. And then boom, that thing just started spinning. That was the first time I went viral. I didn't even know what was happening. I didn't even know when I went to turn the app back on, it was crashing. I had to take it down to a Starbucks.
Right.
I have one of the baristas there, the young lady there, look at it, and she's to her friend, look at this. He's going viral here. Look at this. And they're showing me how to work the app.
That's awesome.
And then then people are telling me, well, you got to do. People are always telling you what you got to do, right? You know what I mean? People always tell you, well, you got to do this next, and you got to do that next. I kind of marched to my own beat when I did TikTok.
Yeah, that's the way you got to do it.
I think that's how you have to do it.
I don't want to do anything too fancy. Literally holding the phone. I have a ring light that I'm talking to you on now. I bought for $22. I'm still using the original ring light.
Right.
I need to get another one.
Yeah.
But you don't have to spend a lot of money on vlog equipment. You don't need to do all that, but you need to have a message. And I think what I would say to attorneys that are listening to your show right now, you've got to get on TikTok. And even if you just hold the phone to your face, hold it out here, and record a video of yourself, it's great practice. Mm-hmm. It's great practice for you talking to your phone, enunciating, being clear on something, getting a topic, breaking it down in a minute without any cue cards or anything. Try it out. And then, like I said, you hit that red button. The analytics that TikTok gives me for my videos, now it's in real time. It's incredible. I'll post a video and it'll tell me in a few minutes, not just the views, but, where they're coming from in the country, women, men. Mm-hmm. Some of my videos are watched in really weird places on the globe, like Lithuania.
Right.
Australia. I get some of my videos, like top watch would be Brisbane or Sydney, Scotland. Yeah. Really, different types of places. And those, like when I do the true, a lot of my followers love the true crime stuff. They love, and this is something you said earlier about criminal defense work. Yeah. I can do this. I can talk about these true crime cases. And that brings in viewers. Yeah. That brings in views because people are obsessed with that stuff.
Yeah. Well, people love the criminal side of law. I think that's why also you have such a great following on TikTok is people want to hear it. Like you said, the first video that went viral for you, marijuana in airports, people have questions about that stuff all the time.
So interestingly enough, on the true crime stuff, so I love podcasting and you're a great communicator. The true crime genre of podcasting is some of the most popular podcasts ever. And if you like talking about that stuff, it's another space.
Well, that's where I'm going.
That's another space, man. You go into that true crime by Marc, by lawyer Marc, and you're a great communicator because you've been in front of juries your whole life, and you're.
Well, thank you, Tom, for the compliment. I appreciate it, and that's exactly what I'm doing. We're putting. I haven't wanted to rush it with my podcast, but I've had some crazy. Myself. I've had some crazy cases in Miami. Okay, it's Miami,
right? Yeah, right.
But I got to tell you, there are just the phone calls and the cases that I've had with my partner. We started putting pen to paper. And going back now and trying to find some of our old notes and just talking about some of these older cases.
So I do have a question for you. When you start your podcast and you're going to be talking about cases, I assume that you've dealt with or taken on, what are like the laws that you have? Because obviously personal injury, we can't disclose, there's HIPAA and all that stuff. But is there anything stopping you from talking about people's crimes that they've committed? Are you gonna just take out names? Can you even talk about these stories?
That's a great question. With the outlaws, when my client hired me, he gave me a couple of rules. You can never make money off us, and you're not talking about this until I'm dead.
Okay.
All right. So, most of them are dead, or they're finishing their prison terms. They're old men now. They're in their early. Some of them are in their early 80s, late 70s. I'm not going to talk about the outlaws yet. That would have to be something I would have to maybe reach out. But that's the old guard. These new guys that are in the gang now are not. They're not really. I don't even know why they're still wearing a rocker. It basically should say "indict me" on the back of these rockers that they're wearing in their vests. I mean, because the government's not going to let this go on for. I've seen in the news a few shootouts here and there, and the federal government's not going to let them get started again. But to answer that question, so have you listened to any of these podcasts? These true crime.
I think Jules is a fan.
I like true crime stuff, but I like more like murders and things like that. Obviously, like the Jeffrey Dahmer show. That was so good. That's
right. So that's fascinating stuff. So they start something on a cold November evening in 1972. Jules was out for a ride on her bicycle. It was just a normal night. And they have these well-produced podcasts. You know where they get the information for these cases? It's all done by Freedom of Information Act. Right. So if I know about a case that took place, where are you guys based out of? Where's your office?
Long Island, New York. Islip by MacArthur Airport.
Islip? Okay. Good lacrosse up there. So, you could go to, if a crime took place in Islip, those records are still being in the custodialship of the police department that may have handled it, the feds. So you can go back and get all the police reports on a lot of these cases. It's all public records. So you can, even if a case is live right now, you can look at public records. It'll show a probable cause affidavit accusing you of murdering somebody. So a lot of that stuff that you think is not public is absolutely public right now.
Right, right.
Okay.
If there's a crime that for instance, the Idaho 4 case is the one that I follow a lot. But that's a case right now that's sealed up because it has a gag order to it. So a probable cause affidavit was released, and it was pretty graphic and a lot of it, explaining a lot of things, but not everything because it is sealed up. But most cases, you can get a probable cause affidavit right now, and it will explain to you in graphic detail how someone was murdered. Like when I get a new case, I need to get that affidavit before I can consult with a client to see what the evidence against them is. So getting the information for old true crime cases is a process that once you go through it by asking for the information, you get it, by the way. There's no, unless there is a juvenile involved in a case, you're not going to get that information. Personal health records, like you said, those are always something, but you don't need those for a podcast.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Unless you're doing a deep dive into something.
I'll tell you what, you're definitely onto something. So, Marc, let me ask you a creator question because you're so creative. How do you come up with ideas for TikTok? Because again, we do have a lot of lawyers that listen to this and that will end up trying to go into the TikTok space or LinkedIn space. I find as a creator on LinkedIn, there are days where it's just not coming to me. I'm just a blank space and I'm skipping that day. I just can't do it, which I want to try to show up every day. But how do you come up with creativity and ideas and energy for the videos that you're doing?
Well, the first thing is, like you just said, if it's not working on a particular day, don't force it. Do not force it. Sometimes I think, well, I need to put something out today. It's been over a week now. Let me think of something and do it, and I'll put it out. That's something I really try to avoid. So right now, for instance, let me give you an idea that I'm working with that I want to do a video on is the difference between libel and slander. Or what is defamation? What's the difference between defamation, libel, and slander? A lot of people, these words are being thrown around a lot. What's the difference?
Right.
Do we know what's the difference? Do you remember the bar example? The difference between written.
But I was going to say it's the difference between written and oral. What's the the statements
Slander's
that are made?
Oral, right. But social media has kind of blurred that oral and the slander and the libel. So jurisdiction and the type of cause of action you have has to be very careful based on. Is something like if you're doing. Have you ever done a live on here? Have you used that feature of TikTok?
I have not.
No.
Jules, have you seen it? How it works?
I've seen the lives, but I've never done them, so I don't really know how they work.
So if I went on there and I said, you know what, Jules is a terrible motorcycle rider and she's awful and she shouldn't be riding it and just trying to really defame her reputation, is that slander or is that libel? Because it is being recorded. But I am saying it verbally. So I'm just using this as an example of do you sue for libel or do you sue for slander? Also, freedom of speech. Where does freedom of speech come in? And how much can I say about somebody's reputation? And who are they? A public figure you can say more about.
Yeah.
And the defenses to libel and slander are what? That what you're saying is true. So
right.
I need to put together a minute video. Or now, see, TikTok will not give me... If I don't do a video that's over 90 seconds... They don't push it as much anymore.
Really?
You know what you can do?
I thought people don't want to watch it if they're longer than 30 seconds.
They don't want to watch it.
Sorry, Jules. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay.
But
you know what you can do for a video like that? You can find... Because the one instance that comes to my head when you said that was the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial. So, and everybody on TikTok went crazy over that. So you could find like an old video of somebody talking about it and like quickly like take like 2 seconds from it and stitch it and then talk about, all right, what was going on during this case? Because that was a defamation case, correct? And obviously, like every state has different laws. That's why they did it in Virginia and like all that crazy stuff.
That's a great example, Jules, because that case, she wrote an editorial in the Washington Post. Mm-hmm. So that's like textbook libel. It's a written editorial.
Yeah.
And Johnny Depp, his attorneys, that case, there's a short documentary, a few episodes, docuseries on Netflix about that trial.
I just watched it.
How was it? Was it good?
Did you see how they incorporated TikTok and said this is the first TikTok trial?
Yeah, because everybody on TikTok...
There's a different take on it. It wasn't. I didn't want to watch it if it was the same thing I had seen during the trial. They took it and they spun it a completely different way, and they showed you why his lawyers, like Depp's lawyers, completely outclassed her lawyers.
They were good.
By filing it in Virginia, they took advantage of really, really liberal libel laws for plaintiffs there.
Yeah, they were good.
And, TikTok, they loved that trial. So I loved how the docuseries included all of that because it was a
very good docuseries.
I would tell you too, Mark, one of the topics I am fascinated is a couple of things on the criminal defense side. And I know you have relationships on both sides, so you may have to wait for those people to die or give you some kind of compensate, some kind of dispensation waiver, whatever. But not only prosecutorial misconduct, prosecutorial overreach. I am fascinated by the topic of the impact of for-profit prisons. I am fascinated that in our country, our country has, if not the highest rate of incarceration in the world, one of the highest. I don't know if they are still the highest, but I know at one point they were. And how does that jive with who we're really supposed to be? How does that jive? So that type of stuff, I would listen to that and podcast, video, whatever. I would watch you all day long talk about stuff like that because you are really knowledgeable in the space. And I do think that what you do is, you named a couple of the movies, what you do is very much in line with why people get into the law in the first place, which is to help, right? To give a voice to people that don't have a voice.
people give PI attorneys, criminal defense attorneys too, a bad name. They don't really understand that you are fighting for an individual who has a traumatic brain injury and their family.
Right.
And somebody that has care because of a bad accident, that you are a fighter. As a PI attorney, you're a fighter.
Yeah.
You're not just sitting there. You're just not an ad.
Right. Right.
Okay? These insurance companies just aren't going to open up their wallet for anybody. You got to earn it. You got to fight.
And those cases drag on, like you were saying. I mean, we got cases going 3 to 5 years before you're at a jury, but
I can't imagine.
You just keep going. You just keep going.
Let me ask you that question, Tom. What is it like knowing that you have all that money invested in a case and you're going on year 3?
So interestingly enough, it's not about the money for me, right? Like I truly get obsessed with a certain number of cases every year that until those cases go to bed, I don't look at the money, whether it's $50,000 to $150,000 into a case. I'm so consumed with the person I'm representing that, whether it's me or my team putting together the fight, I don't look at what's invested. Now I'm smart about money and I understand money really well and I'm well financed. But I got 2 cases right now that I'm up to $50,000. I'm about to drop more money into demonstratives on each one. But I'm of the feeling that if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it the right way because I always try to put myself in their shoes. God forbid I had a significant accident and I was brain damaged. Would I want my wife going to an attorney who won't spend $20,000 on an illustration or animation? Sorry, because it's a lot of money. There's 90% of the law firms out there won't do that. And I'm not a monstrous firm, but I just believe like that's my obligation to this client. I took them on.
That's your commitment.
That's my commitment, right? So it's the life. You'll always hear me say in my office, this is the life we chose. Right? It's the life we chose. I don't know if that's from The Godfather or some other gangster movie, but
it's from The Godfather.
It's from The Godfather.
This is the business we've chosen.
This is the business we've chosen. This is, like, if I wasn't comfortable with doing that, I would have went into a different area of law, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And just when I was trying to get out,
they dragged me back in. Yeah. All right. So that was lawyer Marc out of Florida, Marc Morris. He's a criminal defense attorney. And man, I really enjoyed that show. Marc got cut short because his Wi-Fi cut out. He just moved. So we're sure to have him back on. But Jules, I don't know. I really enjoyed talking to Marc. He's a fascinating guy. And he's the real deal, by the way, in terms of lawyers. Like he's doing the real shit that anybody that's listening to this, Jules, you've probably seen me talk about it on LinkedIn where I'm like, look, be about it. Do the thing. If you're a lawyer listening to this and you're looking to grow a firm, it's really important first that you do the thing, right? If you're doing personal injury, you got to get in there and try the cases. Criminal defense, you got to get into the courtroom and do the thing. You can build a business after, but you got to master your craft first. And that's what I think Marc has done, and he's the real deal. So,
and he's entertaining while doing it.
And he's entertaining as hell. I love his marketing stuff. So if you're looking to follow Marc, he's Lawyer Marc on TikTok. He's got a huge presence there. Connect with him on LinkedIn as well. He's looking to build that up as well.
We will definitely link all of his social medias in the show notes for everybody.
Yes. And thank you for tuning in. This is the Lead Counsel Podcast. Listen to wherever podcasts are distributed. And please leave us a good review.
Yes. Thank you, everybody.
Peace.